Carlos is originally from Bogota, Colombia, where he received a 2002 bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And in 2010, he obtained his master's degree in environmental engineering from the University of Hartford. Carlos has always had a keen interest in water quality issues and wastewater treatment and conveyance projects. For his undergrad, Carlos helped to monitor water quality conditions of the Bogota River to assess the impact from tanneries and agricultural fields. He started his career at DEP in February of 2007, working for the Coastal Permitting and Enforcement Office with the Office of Long Island Sound Programs, which is now part of the Land and Water Resources Division. In 2009, Carlos accepted a position with the Connecticut Military Department, where he managed the Environmental Performance Assessment System tracking environmental compliance for National Guard installations in the state. After a 2-year stint at the Connecticut Military Department, Carlos accepted a position with DEP's Municipal Wastewater Program, working as a sanitary engineer intern. After almost 12 years of working in this program, Carlos has helped to implement the Clean Water Fund program on numerous planning, design, and construction projects, as well as has led efforts to increase storm resilience awareness and, and preparedness on municipal wastewater projects and regulated wastewater infrastructure under the NIPD's program umbrella. Carlos lives in Southington with his family. He enjoys traveling, playing tennis, and watching his children play soccer and volleyball. And without further ado, Carlos Esguerra.
All right, good morning, everybody. So, thank you. So, Connecticut WIA is not the only one with a new logo. Actually, DEP is also having a new logo now as of December of last year. You guys can see it right there on the screen. And anyway, my name is Carlos Esguerra, supervising environmental engineer. I think one of the previous slides said that I was a director, but I'm not at that point yet. Anyway. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We've had some staffing changes in the past year or so. We've covered some of this information in previous presentations here, Connecticut WIA, but I'm just gonna go over that again. I'm gonna give a Clean Water Fund update. There's the Clean Water Needs Survey it was recently completed. We're gonna talk about PFAS, which is ramping up significantly around the state. Pump station survey, nitrogen update, phosphorus update, operator certification, and then DMR quality assurance. All right, so the Municipal Wastewater Program operates under the umbrella of the Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse, which is headed by Graham Stevens. You guys can see right there on the left-hand corner, Municipal Wastewater operates under the Water Planning and Management Division that is headed by Nisha Patel. All right, so we have Nisha Patel, Yvonne Hall, who's here today. She's my assistant director. Some of you may remember Yvonne when she was a project engineer, and she's back as of October of last year as an assistant director for the program. All right, last year, you folks may know that we lost George Hicks. He retired, and Roland Denny, April of last year. So, big loss there, institutional knowledge. But, we were able to hire 4 new engineers. All of them are UConn graduates. So, and then right now we're in the process of hiring 1 more engineer. Actually, the agency recently posted the position for hiring 1 more intern. So the Municipal Wastewater Program, we have 2 supervisors. I'm one of them, and then my coworker, Stacy Papano, who some of you may know. Stacy is currently on leave due to some personal issues, but Yvonne Hall is filling in for her in the meantime. Okay, so let's talk about money, right? Funding. So right now we're still operating under the current priority list, which is for state fiscal year 22-23. Fiscal year 23 ends June 30th. However, the current priority list will remain in place until we have a new one adopted. So we're still going to operate under the current one until we issue a new one. And talking about the new priority list, we recently sent out the call for projects form. Some of you might have already seen this information. It is essentially the form where the communities will provide us with their needs for the next couple of years, within the collection system or the treatment plant. And this is really a very important planning tool for us because this way we can see how much money we have available versus, what are the needs from the communities. There is the May 19th deadline for submitting this information, so please make sure you submit that information by that date. And we actually set up an email address, which is right there on the slide, where you can submit those forms. All right, if you have any new projects or any existing projects, what I mean by existing is something that you might have submitted a form for previous fiscal cycles, but that we don't have a funding agreement in place yet. So just because you submitted one for the 22-23 priority list, don't assume that that's going to carry over. Please resubmit it again so that we capture that in the new one. And then we're putting a big emphasis on green infrastructure, right? So there's actually a section in that form that is dedicated to green projects, So if you want to know what a green project is, there's actually an EPA guidance document that I have right there. It's highlighted in red. So, if you have any projects like I&I removal or like replacing equipment that is going to make your POTW more efficient, achieve energy savings of at least 20%. Those are automatic green projects, so you can apply for those or submit a form for those projects. All right, so just a reminder for everybody. So the priority list has two main kind of like funding categories. The one that comes in for the points under 22A-482 of the regulations of Connecticut state agencies. And then we also have some set-aside categories, right, that allow those communities that have more specific projects to come in. They don't have to come in and compete for the points. They're essentially first come, first served basis. And right at the bottom, we have kind of like three categories that we're putting an emphasis on, which are green infrastructure, resiliency projects, which, for some of the communities that are coastal, can be, upgrading pump station, elevating pump station, making it more resilient for storms. That's also something that can qualify for that. And then collection system, right? Collection system in the past used to be a loan-only set aside. Now we actually are giving communities 20% for that. So I&I removal, that's a big one, 20%, 80% loan. This is just a breakdown of all the categories and the percentages that we have for grant eligibility. Those numbers that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, as you're facing the screen, the amounts, those are the ones that are currently in place, but those will not be carrying over to the next priority list. We'll see how much money, oops, I apologize for that. We'll see what carries over for the next priority cycle, and we'll see how much money we got for that. All right, bill, bipartisan infrastructure law. This is another big one, right? So the current administration authorized bill in November of 2021. Essentially, Connecticut will be receiving an allocation every year for the next, I believe, 4 federal fiscal years through FY26. Currently, we have for 22 and 23, we received 24 million for 22, 26 for FY23. Those funds will be incorporated into the Clean Water Fund program, so they will still need to meet the criteria of the Clean Water Fund program, right? So they don't have a special set of criteria. They still need to comply with everything that we have under 22A-482. Then there's the Build America, Buy America, which is BABA. That's the new requirement that also came with the law. And the way I describe BABA to people is AIS on steroids, right? That's how I describe it. It's, not only covers AIS, but, plywood, windows, everything will need to be sourced in the United States, all right? So that's a big one. However, many of the projects that the state is funding right now are already underway, right? They have completed design or they already completed planning. So there is an adjustment period waiver that right now EPA is allowing communities or us, the EP, to give to communities for projects that started design, prior to that May 14 date, right? So if you have a project that is substantially completed design prior to that date, you will be exempted from, the project will be exempted from BABA. All right, there is another category which is for emerging contaminants like PFAS, and then there's the OSG, overflow and stormwater reuse for municipal grant program. That is also coming from the same allotment. All right, so I mentioned that we recently completed the Clean Water Needs Survey. The last time that we did one of these was in 2012. We're supposed to do it every 4 years, but we didn't do one in the intervening time, so we recently completed one. I just want to point out a couple of things. So the total amount of needs for the next 10 or 20 years, we're looking at about $8.7 billion. For 2012, just to put things in perspective, it was about half that, so 4.6. You guys can see on the graph right there where most of the needs are related to wastewater infrastructure, stormwater. It's about 15% of the total, non-point source, 0.5, and decentralized 11%. So wastewater, centralized wastewater infrastructure, 72%. All right, let's switch gears to PFAS. So, I mean, I'm sure everybody here knows PFAS is a big deal right now. I'm not even going to try to read that, what it means, because if you can say it, it's probably pretty bad, right? But it is a large group of chemicals, right? And man-made, they're known as forever chemicals, but a lot of people also calls them everywhere chemicals because they're everywhere, right? They're very common. So the governor in 2019 instituted or created the Interagency PFAS Task Force, Connecticut PFAS Action Plan, and under the umbrella of that plan, DEP commissioned a study in 2021 with Weston and Sampson to collect essentially PFAS or samples to test for PFAS at 35 POTWs. Also, 4 of the sludge incinerator facilities were sampled, not only the scrubber water, but also the sludge. And surface waters, receiving waters, and fish tissue was also sampled. So there's a map right there. We're kind of like try to spread it out a little bit around the state. So PFAS was detected in all media, as expected. In total, 29 different compounds were detected, right? However, 8 PFAS compounds were most prevalent, and they're listed in that table at the bottom right there. The 4 to 8 carbon chain length compounds were the most frequently observed in the data that was collected. All right, influent. The PFPA dominates influent treatment plants. As you folks can see there, it's significantly higher than any other PFAS compound that's prevalent in influent at the POTWs that were sampled. For effluent, we had the same compound that we have for influent, but in addition to that, we also have PFHA that was prevalent in effluent. So those 2 parameters were pretty common in the effluent. For surface waters, we had the same 8 compounds that I had in one of the previous slides. However, you may notice that some of the green bars were higher than the blue bars. The blue bars represent upstream from the outfall. Green represents downstream. Some of the greens were higher, so that was for surface waters. And for sludge and fish tissue, we have PFOS for sludge. And PFAS is the dominant PFAS compound found in composite incinerator sludge as well. And PFAS was also pretty common in fish tissue. I don't know if you folks might have heard, but actually after the agency saw the results of the PFAS sampling program that was done in the Hockanum River, the agency had to issue an advisory because of the significant levels of PFAS that were detected in the water at the time. So I have that note at the bottom there. All right, what's next regarding PFAS? So we're gonna, right now the agency, it's essentially looking at options, right, for including monitoring in permits. So right now we haven't really arrived at a decision how we want to do that. We're looking at different couple of pathways. You know, I don't have a final word on that yet, but we'll be happy to share that when we have a final decision on how PFAS is going to be regulated. Obviously, we'll engage you all to get your feedback. But EPA already issued some guidance back in December suggesting that, you know, delegated states start asking for that data. So are we envisioning doing that this year, before the end of this year? I don't think so. I think we're probably looking more like 2024 for implementing that kind of sampling program, right? So, but there's already some work, prep work that is being done to get us to a point that, you know, when we start asking for this testing, you guys are not going to run into any issues of like not having enough labs or, you know, the methods certified by the Connecticut DPH. So for future meetings, we'll definitely be sharing more information as we learn more. But right now, the agency's liaison for anything related to PFAS is, her name is Megan Lally. And the agency set up an email, bep.pfas@ct.gov, for any inquiries related to PFAS. All right, so pump station. So now switching gears to resiliency. This is something that we initiated a few months ago. Connecticut DEP is part of the Emergency Support Function number 12, which is something that essentially was created in the aftermath of Sandy and Irene. It creates this work group of different stakeholders, you know, with the electric utilities, Eversource, United Illuminating, to essentially, whenever there's a major storm in the state, you know, the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, is activated by the governor, and then we'll be on the phone with the utilities and PURA and other stakeholders to essentially coordinate any issues at the state, right? Some of you may remember after Sandy, Irene, 2011, 2012, we had a significant number of pump stations running on backup power. Even a week after the storm had passed, we still had significant number of pump stations on backup power. So the purpose of this work group is really to facilitate. We're not going to supersede. We're not going to replace anything that you guys have at the local level. It's really to support your efforts and try to put those pump stations back on commercial power as soon as possible. So these emails that we're sending out is just part of that data set that we're going to need to essentially support those efforts whenever we need to coordinate with other stakeholders. We've received about 35 responses so far, and we've sent out about 170 emails. I think we have about 130 collection systems in Connecticut with pump stations that we need data from. Okay, a quick update regarding nitrogen. So nitrogen, you guys can see over the years, is being going down significantly. The TMDL and the general permit has been hugely successful. We've completed 64 upgrades out of the 78 participating or facilities that have a nitrogen limit. 64 actually completed some type of upgrade. We have achieved compliance with the TMDL for most of the years, or actually after about 2012, I think we're being below that threshold with some hiccups, you know, because of, I think 2018 was one of the wettest years on record, so that obviously increased the loads. But, you know, it's been overall, it's been that steady decline in the loading, so that's good to see. And for this year, for 2022, the final price per credit for buyers is going to be $4.56, and for the sellers is going to be 50 cents. Actually, Liana is going to be sending out the invoices for the buyers so that they can submit the payments by July 31st. And that way we'll disperse the money to the sellers by August of this year. So Ileana Rafa, she's the contact person for nitrogen. And Chris Falk is also helping out with that. All right, phosphorus. So phosphorus pretty much worked in 2022 as expected. Most of the low phosphorus upgrades were completed last year. We have the April 1st, 2022 start date for compliance. I shared some graphs there for the Meriden and the Danbury treatment plants. They were off to a rough start, April, kind of like learning how to operate the system and everything, but for the rest of the year, their numbers were pretty good. So again, 2022 was a dry year. We'll see this year what brings, So we hope that the numbers will still be below the loading limits. All right, Craig is here today with us. Craig oversees the Craig Motaski, the operator certification program. Now it's all computer-based. Basically, all applicants who apply prior to October 1st are applying for the 2023 certification year. The 2024 exam notice will be posted on October 1st, and anyone who applies after October 1st can begin testing on or after January 2nd of 2024. All right, this is an update from Susan Unger. She oversees discharge monitoring reports, quality assurance, and she essentially told me that, this year we're going to have the DMR QA study 43 that has been moved to May 19th of this year. All major facilities, which are considered by EPA, anything over 1 MGD, and a specific number of miners are required to participate. Once the study is released, everyone should receive a study packet by mail. Any questions, please make sure you contact Susan. She's here with us today. Please do not download that information as of today because it's still not the most recent update form. The website will be updated when the study is released. And then there is a website there for the Discharge Monitoring Report Quality Assurance Program. So that's the link and for accessing that information. And that's all I got to share today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the concentration of PFAS compounds in the sludge. Do you have an average concentration in what sludges have been monitored?
Not off the top of my head, but something that I forgot to mention is that the Weston and Sampson report is actually in the process of being, it's going to be uploaded to the website. So you'll be able to get that information off the report. I don't know, Chris, if you know that off the top of your head, but I don't recall the concentrations. But it's something that is in the report. And again, that report will be posted, I would hope, before the end of this month, so that you folks can review it. Any other questions? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The phosphorus performance of the different plants that have the remediation in place, is that available online, the data?
Well, not readily available, but it's something that can be put together, definitely. I mean,
you gave graphs, so it showed.
So we have access to EPA ICES database, and we also have the monthly operating reports. So we see the numbers every month during the season, April 1st through October 31st. So we can always grab that data. But I don't know if the public would be able to. Maybe Lex, you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, not limitations, but see what is in the effluent. So go to echo.gov, look up the plant, and you can scroll down to the effluent. You can scroll down to see what they have had in their effluent, because every DMR gets reported to ICES, ICES dumps
reports to
into
ECHO.
ECHO, so everyone can see the data.
Is there an update on the general permit for collection systems for communities that don't have a treatment plant in town?
So the agency is working on finalizing the draft, and I basically will be, we will have to public notice it, right? We'll have a hearing, but as of right now, I don't have a date when that might happen. I don't know, Yvonne, if you have a more recent update on that?
We'll be having public engagement probably, hopefully by the end of the summer, something like that. Definitely this year, where we're just going to have stakeholder meetings and put that out. Because there are a few different ways that we can do it, and we're not sure quite how we want to put it out. We're not sure if we want to modify, just do like one permit modification and make everybody.
The question is about the satellite collection system one?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That one is general permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that Yvonne is referring to is the PFAS. The PFAS, that's another.
The satellite one,
Yeah.
we're going to be putting out public engagement probably this year.